Hello, welcome to my channel. Today is day number 5. Yesterday I said day number 4 was day number 5, but that wasn't the case. It is actually, today is day number 5. Yesterday was day number 4, but I kept saying day number 5, so I hope I didn't confuse anybody. But I did put it in the notation below the video that it was in fact day number 4 yesterday. So although it was said that it was day number 5. But now we're not confused anymore, and we are on day number 5 in this meditation. Um, uh, this camera never seems to sit right. Let me see. Whenever I get it up, it kind of falls back. But anyway, um, so today we're on day number 5, and I'm doing a. It's called the Beloved Mule. And it is based on a dream I had last night. I've been having some really interesting dreams during the past few days. I'm wondering if I'm actually going to get through the journal of dreams that I have here with about, I don't know, about 18 or 19 dreams, concepts written down here. But I haven't been able to use them because I've been having dreams each night and remembering them. So that was pretty cool. So this is the latest dream that I remember. I'm going to go ahead and pull a card from this deck here. This is the Oracle of Mystical Moments, and I'm going to see what card comes up today. Yeah, but at any rate, I have to give these a good shuffle here, mix them up good, and see what comes up. But at any rate, now that I've like totally confused you with all the numbers and the dream numbers and the day numbers, etc., I'm going to pull a card and then we'll get started. So, okay. Oh, the art of seduction. I don't know what that means. There's really nothing seductive about the dream, but maybe it's about persuasion, about being able to persuade people to do things, even if they may not want to do it, or using that power within each person to persuade somebody to do something that either they want to do or may not want to do. So that's the card. It's a beautiful image, though. The guy looks familiar. Looks like an actor that I have heard of or seen or something. He's got that kind of face. And she's just, she's just going at him. But at any rate, so that's the card for today. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on the dream. And you'll find that it is completely far removed from the card that I pulled. So, yeah, we'll see. At any rate, this is day number 5, May 8th, 2025, and it's called The Beloved Mule. The dream I had last night was amazing. I've started. Metatron says, you did have one, particularly after a pretty unsettling night. I said, yeah, I couldn't sleep. I had this influx of negative or dark energy. The fear was palpable. Then after I went to sleep, I had the most amazing dream. I would rather focus on the dream instead of the negativity, though. Metatron says, okay, then let's get started. Tell us about the dream. I said, you already know. And he says, true, but by talking about it, you get into the energy of it. By speaking about the dream, you are able to flesh out details that you would otherwise not know. So yes, yes, we do know about the dream, but before we can tell you the significance of it, we have to give you the space to talk about it. I said, makes sense. It is like reading a book and being on 2 different pages. When you speak about the dream, you suddenly are on the same page as we are. I said, okay, that makes sense. So I was in a place, but I think it was in Russia, and it was a fairly small village. There were lots of trees and nature around, and we were on a path leading into this village. I'd gotten about 200 euros or $250 at the bank. So, but it was all in rubles. I had transferred the money into rubles, not euros or dollars. In this village, we had a big stack of money. I remember when I was in Russia, the exchange rate was some crazy amount, like 300 rubles to a dollar or something like that. It was 30-something years ago, and I felt sort of rich in this place. The amount of money I had was rather humbling. So we're walking along this path, and we see this fair of some sort going on. There are tents and general things you would see at a sort of a medieval fair on one side. There's a simple tent and seated on a bucket of sorts was an elderly man. He had gray hair and whiskers, but he did not look like Santa Claus. Instead, he looked a bit like Dumbledore from Harry Potter. He had wise-looking eyes, but a very troubled expression. Next to him there were two fold-out chairs, a donation bucket, and next to the tent a small mule stood. I did not see anything out of the ordinary about the mule, but the man said he was trying to raise money to help his mule. He said that his beloved mule was ill, and any sort of treatment would cost a lot of money. I could tell that this man was sincere, but I could see that he had managed to collect only a little small amount of money for it. And Ramon says, what happened next? I said, well, we sat down in two folding chairs, and I glanced down at my pocket where the money was. I couldn't explain it, but something inside of me told me that I should help this man. I think internally the money is not the end-all be-all, but in this instance it seemed to be the answer between life and death. I looked at the man and I asked him how much he needed. He did not tell me in an amount. Instead, he said, I need a miracle. He seemed so humble in his responses, as though he was fully aware of that having to ask strangers for help was the last thing he ever wanted to do. I could see the desire for independence in his expression. And discreetly, as we were talking, I pulled out the clump of bills in my pocket, counted out about half of what I had, silently folded it, and slid it into the bucket. My companion didn't know if it was my husband or someone else. I'm inclined to think it was someone else looking at me. Why are you doing this? They asked me. The guy's a bum. His story is unbelievable. What's so unbelievable about helping a family member? I asked. And the person responded, that is not a family member, the companion countered. It's a stupid mule. I said, it's more than that. I said, as these words emerged, I decided it best to continue speaking with the man instead. And Nigel says, do you remember what you talked about? I said, not really, but near the end of the dream, we stood up with the intention of going. The man looked even more worn and haggard than he had upon our arrival. I picked up the bucket and handed it to him. I said, you may want to hide the money, I said. He accepted the bucket, and when he looked down at the contents, he suddenly began to cry. I can now afford the treatments, he sobbed. The strange thing is, I did not want any credit for helping him. I just wanted to do so anonymously. But I was surprised that people might try to take his money away from him, and I wanted to make certain that it went for what was intended. The fact that this man had a mule or a beast of burden didn't matter to me. I felt the emotional attachment that he had with this animal, and it was in essence his family, and I didn't want to see him lose that family member because of money. Metatron says, do you think that this is a reflection of a past event? I said, yes. I think it reminded me first of an experience in Moscow during my first 2 days there. I had encountered an elderly couple on the street. They were selling milk. I had bought 2 pieces of pizza. I ate one but didn't have the appetite for the other. The man was eyeing that pizza, so I offered it to him. There was no hesitation in him. He accepted the proffered food, and his wife offered me milk in exchange. I politely declined as I had no means of preserving it. I was living at the university at the time and figured it might sour. Ramon says, you could tell that he was hungry. I said, yeah. He didn't have to say a word. I just knew it. The dream reminded me of this. It also reminded me of when I volunteered to work at a soup kitchen. And Metatron says, you wanted to help the people there. You have always been that way. Just as in your dream, you helped the man save his beloved mule. I said, the thing is, charity is not just a word. People always seem to think that helping others is a thing to judge. And Metatron says, how do you mean? And I said, well, people ask for money on the street a lot. I try to help when I can, but I can only do so much. When people approach me and ask for money, I feel awkward. It doesn't mean that I don't judge because I know that I'm not perfect. But when it comes to them, I have to listen to my guides. Sometimes the energy tells me to make a safe distance, but sometimes it tells me to help. People ask me why I help, and it's because when I needed help back in the day, I got it. But sometimes I was talked down to because I was poor. They got help from their parents and friends. I had to solely rely on my friends for help. So when I see people who genuinely need help, my inclination is to help, just like in the dream. Metatron says, you helped a stranger in need, but you also risked the judgment of your companion. I said, yes. I guess I just remember when I needed help and got it. The thing is, I remember days when I went hungry because I had to work for poverty wages. I never talked about it, but I always knew that if I was faced with a person who needed help and I sensed that genuinely needed help, I would help them. The dream reminded me that when I was in Moscow, I was asked to work in a soup kitchen. Basically, I would take trays of food over to handicapped people, mostly the elderly. And Metatron says they offered your group some of the food. I said, I know, and I remember I was working alongside a young Russian man, and after they offered the food, everyone in the group declined. I accepted. And Metatron says, why? I said, because I felt that it would be insulting to the people there to decline. I had the impression that these people who offered were not judging me as an individual, but they were regarding my nationality. Is this American group humble enough to accept the food they were serving, or is it beneath them? That was the question that ravaged my mind. Like the man with the mule in the dream, did I want to appear boastful by giving him the money to take care of his mule, or do so in such a way that he would understand that it wasn't about bragging or boasting, but instead about simple humility? I think that showing this as a reminder to me to regard people in a kind and compassionate manner is better than trying to appear as though one is better. Metatron says, these experiences shaped you to be the person you are today. Why do you suppose you are reminded of this now? I said, I think it was the calming sense of it after trying to sleep and not being able to. I just wanted to sleep, but my mind was so jumbled. I guess I needed to have something soothing to get my mind off of the troubling stuff. Metatron says, it makes sense. You were looking beyond your own issues and seeing that other people had issues too. And I said, I think that in the dream I was able to help him. It gave me a good feeling and made me realize that my mind can sometimes be filled with crazy nonsense. Are there any more messages in the dream? Metatron says, only that you are striving to be a good person. You know that there are those out there who would use your kindness against you, but you also can look within yourself and discover that the significance does lie in being able to infer when someone is like that man in your dream, or the man you shared pizza with, or the patrons of the soup kitchen. You can tell when kindness is real. You can also tell when the chatter can try to steer you off course. The person who was with you and tried to dissuade you from your intended path is represented by the disenchanted society. They have to learn the lesson of community. When you said that the people in the U.S. needed to discover community, you were absolutely right. You have various groups where you are a member of sort of a community. People in the U.S. are tied to their job, career, and personal things. They do not fully understand that community goes beyond just that. When you offer someone a smile or tell someone that you hope they are having a nice day, you are contributing to the harmonious community. You create that sense of community by breaking bread with them. When you are asked to have a meal with a group of strangers, but never ask from where that food comes, you are taking part and being invited and welcomed into a community. You have understood that sense of community from a young age. You see and understand the idea or notion that by accepting the food, you have embraced that community. Learning about that took you to Russia, where communities and people thrive on the notion of helping each other. This is not a sense of politics. This is a knowing that a community is a give and take situation. You look at the notion of rugged individualism and see a sense of detachment. You want to see people come together, and now they are being forced to come together. The universe has tried to get them together, but they ultimately drift back into those old habits of detachment. The dream is a gentle reminder of the significance of community based on your real life experiences. It does not mean that you must always be surrounded by people, but that you can step into this idea of community and create a space where the concept of working together to create a new tomorrow is not a far-fetched idea, born out of irrational idealism, but instead of understanding that a man who loved his mule is just as real as you sharing a piece of pizza with a stranger. I said, that sounds beautiful. Sunshine, what do you think? And Sunshine says, I think for a long-winded angel, Metatron is absolutely spot on. I love the dream, and I think your humility in it was a profound idea. I said, I did not want credit for it. The thing is, I want to do good, but I also know I'm not perfect. And Sunshine says, doubting yourself about your acts of kindness is not a good look. You have a goodness in you that does not appear boastful. You were told a long time ago that you were selfish, so you spent years trying to prove to yourself that you are not selfish. But the truth is, you were never selfish. The person who told you this was merely projecting this selfishness onto you. Just remember, a good deed should not be done to prove that one is one thing or another. It should be done for the sake of just being a good deed. I said, thank you. That has indeed been an enlightening dream, and your words mean a lot. And that was where we ended. So, yeah, this dream was really kind of amazing. It did remind me of the time when I was in Russia, and it reminded me about the notion of humility and about being a humble person, even in those times when you are in a position where you can help another person. You may find yourself there, and you may find yourself at that crossroads where you decide or determine whether or not you're going to help an individual or help a community. And I think in the world right now, we are in a moment where we are trying to decide if we're going to create communities or if we're going to just try to keep our head above water by ourselves. And I think that this dream was an empowering idea, saying, create the community, be in the community, be a part of that community, and help each other, because that is the only way that we're going to get through to the next step or the next stage in our development. And now the card. The Art of Seductions. Could be my trying to prove a point. It could be somebody in society telling you that you're crazy for wanting to do something that you want to do. The idea is stay on course, keep your path open, allow yourself to do the things that you feel are right and just, and not worry about this. So persuasion can be two things. It can be a good thing, a persuasion to do something good, or it could be the persuasion to do something not so good. The choice is always going to be ours to make, and we are going to have to make it. And I think that is where this and the dream connect. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. I thank you for subscribing, for liking, and for commenting. I'd be interested in hearing what you think about the dream, and maybe you've had some dreams yourself that have been telling you a message similar to this. I wish you good luck with trying to infer with your own dreams and see what they are telling you. And I wish you a wonderful day. Take care, and as always, namaste.